Yamazaki Kento, looking around in confusion, tries to figure out where he is, noticing the European buildings around him and realizing that this is definitely not Japan, because just a moment ago he was sitting in his room. Meanwhile, Haruto, in shock, stares at his reflection, doubting whether he really sees himself, while trying to recall forgotten memories, while a curious girl nearby watches his awkward bow. Gradually, he remembers that he ordered a product via a tablet and suddenly dozed off, but after rubbing his ear and feeling pain, he realizes that what is happening is not a dream. After this, he finally comes to the conclusion that he has ended up in an isekai world, trying to come to terms with the confusion and remembering that he seemed to have died, but he cannot remember the details, while behind him the city is bustling with activity. He mentally runs through 3 scenarios common to such stories: awakening a past life, being transmigrated by a deity, or being summoned by local residents to save the world, thinking about standard plot patterns. Then he begins to worry about the lack of any landmarks, but suddenly his gaze catches on something strange, and he stops, clutching the book in his hands, while the quiet town with a waterfall nearby seems almost unreal. Haruto sits down on the edge of the road slab and nervously taps the tablet screen, discovering that all the data has disappeared, losing his precious music and photos, making him feel even more helpless. Meanwhile, he notices unfamiliar app icons, camera, shopping, info, and recipes, and is puzzled until a sudden flash of light on the screen makes him look up sharply. After examining the inscription, he is amazed to learn that the device maintains comfortable life in the new world thanks to magical energy and works until it runs out. After this, he doubts whether he really ended up in another world, and is convinced that he has no magic, but the tablet offers a bracelet mode, disguising itself in this world as an ordinary book. He learns about the 4,300-point bonus for living in the new world and decides to unlock the camera, happy that the application is installed in the same way as in the familiar reality. Since the remaining 3,300 points seem sufficient, he considers unlocking all the apps at once, deciding that they might be useful in the future, and confidently confirms the action. Haruto, completely reliant on the device, activates the installation of 4 applications, notices the camera installation is complete, and plans to take a couple of photos until a shadow appears nearby and someone calls out to him. The blond man crosses his arms and inquires about the stranger's origins, while the young man, clutching a tablet like a notepad, worries that his interlocutor is trying to provoke a conflict. The man then explains that the journey for work turned out to be pointless, because the luggage was lost, and calls the incident an extremely unlucky day for a newcomer. Haruto smiles awkwardly and admits that the situation has indeed turned out badly, while internally agreeing that everything looks quite dire. After this, the guard commander, Agis, introduces himself as a man tired of the endless noise, and Haruto was relieved, realizing from his reaction that he is dealing with a quite friendly leader. Overcome with anxiety, the young man explains that he worked as a laborer far from home, lost all his documents and money, and was therefore forced to lie about his origins when he was brought here. He is afraid of appearing too calm, because fatigue is pressing down even more, and the dark-haired man hesitantly clarifies further actions, while the blonde suggests searching for the missing item, although he doubts success. At the end of the conversation, Farron explains that a guild card is the fastest and most reliable way to obtain identification, as it is issued on the same day and without paying a fee, unlike slow government documents. Haruto asks the young man if he has chosen a job, but he nervously admits that he hasn't thought about it yet and doesn't know the possible options, while an older man nearby watches their conversation thoughtfully. Then the fair-haired guard tries to find out if the newcomer can handle laundry and cleaning, and receives a hesitant confirmation, as if he himself doubts his own skills. After this, the man hesitates, choosing his words, and the scene smoothly moves to a quiet street, where motionless houses seem to be eavesdropping on their awkward discussion. Farron expresses doubt about the lack of documents and clarifies the details, but Haruto assures him that the local fighters are experienced and will be able to prevent any criminal threat. Then Farron warns of the upcoming inconveniences, reporting that their housekeeper recently retired and he will have to live in the barracks, jokingly adding that the most valuable thing here is the hidden porn magazines. Afterwards, they noisily enter the room, introducing it as a real man cave, and Haruto, wincing, compares the smell to a stuffy school teen locker room, while Farron advises breathing through the mouth. Farron claims that the small space is more than enough, and Kiyoshi apologizes, explaining that there are no available rooms, leading them upstairs as Haruto feels his head begin to spin. A minute later, Haruto thanks Farron for his help in a difficult moment, noting how much he was helped out, and the man calmly watches him from the doorway with barely noticeable satisfaction. Haruto then expresses his gratitude again for everything they've done for him, hears a parting word about how the local kids are rough but good-natured, and receives a note with an address in case he needs help. He admits that he hasn't quite settled in yet, but he decides to move step by step, thinking about his immediate plans and trying to figure out where to start. Meanwhile, Kiyoshi, standing on the stairs, reminds him that he is responsible for several areas at once and urgently asks Haruto to help in the kitchen, which he readily accepts, preparing for his new responsibilities. Yamazaki Kento introduces himself and expresses his willingness to help prepare the food, while also noting that the barracks are much larger and busier than he expected, as someone assigns him another task. Until the evening, Haruto washes the dishes, cleans the corner assigned to him, and helps cook, and later he falls tiredly onto the bed, thinking that he has earned dinner, although inside he feels a slight feeling of rupture. Lying on the mattress, he grumbles about the disgusting taste of the local food, thinking that no amount of cleaning will save it, while the two neighbors quietly chew, not understanding how anyone can eat such a thing. Then Haruto takes the tablet and excitedly opens the camera app, noting that it worked as usual this morning, wondering if he'll be able to take a selfie, but finds only new photos in the gallery. He launches the information app and excitedly examines his status, feeling like a full-fledged character from an isekai story as he reads his race, age, gender, and temporary profession. Later, he notices a lot of darkened lines in the stats, realizing that the level is too low for full information, and then lies down, quietly realizing that he is only 16. He admits that he only managed to try some of the apps, slightly regretting his tiredness, and the girl next to him asks in surprise if he fell asleep a few seconds after work. Then Haruto clenches his fist, determined to get an ID card at all costs, knowing that without documents he can't relax, and amazed at how unusual the real fantasy world feels. He finally makes it to the guild where he is greeted by a friendly woman who warmly welcomes the new visitor while people mill around, going about their business in the bustling room. Lilia greets Haruto with a cheerful and friendly tone, asking if it's his first time here, and he hesitates awkwardly, unsure how to properly respond to her slight enthusiasm. The young man expresses a desire to register, after which the girl asks him to place his right palm on the paper and his left on the crystal, clarifying his experience, and he honestly notes that this is his first time in the guild. Haruto is stunned when he is handed the map and manual, and the girl cheerfully confirms the registration is complete. Nearby, another recruit watches the scene with delight, mistaking it for magic. Farron bows and promises to work hard for the guild's good name, which earns the receptionist's respect, after which he accepts the card and a wish of good luck, sincerely happy to join. Kento explains that the tablet bracelet serves as a storage device and displays the guild card as identification, and another guard asks if he has registered yet, reminding him to carefully study the manual before leaving on patrol. Farron examines the manual, surprised at how easily he can read the unfamiliar text, then notes out loud that those registered in the guild are called guild members. A senior adventurer explains that fighters of rank B and above are considered full-fledged specialists, while newcomers are only allowed to visit the surface levels of dungeons and join groups where the leader is at least rank B. The young man reflects on his humble choices and low status, deciding that he does not intend to remain in the barracks his entire life and must rise in rank to secure an independent future for himself. Haruto plans to rise to C rank through the promotion exams, intending to check with the guild about joining a party, knowing that from B rank onwards, participation in battles becomes mandatory. He notices the lack of active recruitment and decides to take on a quest to earn some money, while a girl with two ponytails watches him from behind the counter with a barely noticeable melancholy. Farron asks if this is the new guy who came yesterday, remembering Mr. Aggie's words about his stolen things, and wonders curiously if he really is that cute. Haruto carefully intervenes in the two girls' conversation when he overhears them discussing their search for a maid job, considering it boring but reliable, and arguing about how to help a still very young man. He nervously asks how to accept the quest, then agrees to show the map, after which two girls respond simultaneously, and one begins to check the task data. The girl explains the essence of the quest, which involves cleaning a room, specifies the approximate time and necessary tools, and then hands over a map with a marked route when the young man thanks her. Haruto feels uneasy as he imagines his role as a cleaner, while Lilia remembers the vague text on the application and suggests that the client might be Farron Neri. Holding the letter, he smiles, trying to imagine what the sender would be like, while in the distance, under the tree, another figure walks away, unaware of his thoughts. A girl reflects on how her new life in another world began unexpectedly, deciding to gradually make her way forward, while two men talk near the village buildings. A girl with glasses dreams of a quiet life and pleasant people in the future, carefully holding a notebook in her hands, as if writing down her own hopes. Kiyoshi is horrified at the thought of hiring a guild to clean the kitchen, and Haruto admits that it is their shameful place, assuring that he himself cannot explain much, but confirms that such devastation cannot be fixed in one day. A girl approaches a rickety house, noting that it looks like it could blow away in any strong gust of wind, wondering if anyone lives inside, and then noticing the lack of a doorbell, knocks on the door. Astria opens the door with a cheerful greeting, and Haruto instantly blushes in surprise, visibly taken aback by her lively smile. Lilia nervously asks if the guild really sent Kento, and upon hearing confirmation, she is amazed that it is a real elf in front of her, while Ferris introduces himself and thanks him for coming. Lilia announces that the kitchen needs cleaning and shows him a set of tools, and Haruto notes that at least this part of the house is still relatively clean. However, inside the private room, they discover piles of garbage and rotting food, and Haruto, shocked, compares what he sees to an ocean of decay, quietly repeating his despair. He peers intently at the rubble while Farron admits that he didn't expect such a dire picture, and Astria cheerfully explains that the 5 residents are completely inept at cleaning and don't know where to start. At his workstation, Kiyoshi approaches the table while Farron asks him for all the cleaning supplies and a towel, tying the cloth tightly over his face to contain the smell. Haruto reminds himself that first impressions are everything and that failing on the first day will destroy his trust. He has 3 hours, and Lilia is on the outside supporting him, giving him a little confidence. Kiyoshi, hiding his face behind a mask, decides to start by throwing out the trash on the floor, then intends to clear the drain, and then move on to the walls. Haruto, looking around the room, wonders how the floor got that color, but notices a classic tortoiseshell brush and decides it's the perfect tool, pleased by the familiarity. Kneeling and facing a stubborn stain, he realizes he's failed, the stain won't budge. Checking the timer, he discovers with horror that he's already wasted an entire hour. He is overcome with fear of failure, but at that moment the device offers to launch the shopping LVL1 option, and he is confused whether this is really a function of the app and whether he should agree. A man is amazed by the postal delivery system, realizing that a 100 yen item requires 100 points, and the app explains that you can buy anything from Earth using points. Haruto realizes that he mindlessly opened all the apps, losing his 4,000 point bonus, while another participant in the discussion notes that the system accepts credit and can convert money into points. Kiyoshi discovers that at his current level he can only buy items under 300 yen, is surprised by the limitation, and begins searching the catalog for acceptable items. Lilia admires the sparkling clean kitchen, surprised that it is actually theirs, while Haruto laughs and notes that he didn't use magic, just labor, and then heads out to take out the trash. Holding the package, he considers how Mr. Sponge handles heavy dirt, searches for it through the app, and decides to buy it, pleased with the result. Farron is delighted to see that the product has actually appeared, while Kiyoshi doubts its effectiveness as he pours out the liquid, after which Farron happily sprays the cleaner onto the surface. Haruto is shocked when something flashes and flies past in front of him, and he reacts with genuine disbelief at the effect he sees. He is delighted with how quickly the contaminated area is cleaned, noting that the product literally erases the dirt, and is happy to see how the disastrously neglected room has been brought into order. Unsure if it's a boy or a girl, he cautiously asks where to throw the bags, and the silver-haired, bespectacled figure silently looks him in the eye before suddenly reaching for something from behind her back. Haruto warmly thanks Kiyoshi, who then notices something on the floor and points to it, but looks back to see Haruto already leaving with a confused expression. He remembers that the guy never spoke to him, then shrugs, deciding not to think about it. The joyful elf warmly thanks her for completing her first task, amazed at how she managed to tidy up such a neglected room. Kiyoshi strictly instructs Farron to wash dishes immediately after use, throw away waste, and wipe dirty areas with a damp cloth. She reacts irritably to these duties. Lilia hesitantly hands over the card, admitting that this is her first task, and Haruto smiles softly, saying that the small fee is just for maintaining order, and she quietly agrees. Haruto thanks her, and Lilia explains that she added a small bonus for the fact that the kitchen now looks much better than expected, showing a certificate of completion of the quest. Lilia politely thanks her for the cleaning and promises to contact her again if needed, while her interlocutor calmly confirms his willingness to help. The girl happily celebrates the successful completion of her first task, and the boy is hesitant to pay in cash, but she offers to deposit the amount onto the guild card, and he agrees to split the payment. Haruto checks the amount while someone points out the details. 4,500 yen is given in cash, and the rest is sent to the guild card, asking him to make sure the details are correct. Haruto reflects on how much it cost him to clean for just 3 hours, and the girl behind the counter says she'd be happy to work with him again. He thinks about the need to save money after buying cleaning products, while two girls happily ask about their reward, glad that everything went smoothly. Farron calls out to Mr. Karsesh, who smiles back, and the others discuss their need for help, with a gentleman asking how to contact Karsesh, offering to introduce them to the important man. The cat-eared girl dramatically declares her end, while the narration explains that weeks have passed since Yamazaki Kento arrived in the New World, and he now encounters a mysterious cat-eared girl. Farron chides Verns for his carelessness, explaining that he is constantly rushing forward, and Lilia asks how he is feeling while he struggles with the bow and asks if there are any healing potions. Kiyoshi warns Haruto to be careful, but he insists that he is weak and effeminate, and Kento agrees, after which Kiyoshi offers to come back if he feels better. Farron and Kiyoshi return with a rare material for the leader, and Astria accepts it and decides to deliver it herself, noting that Dragon's Breath is a B-rank team of 12 people, including her. Haruto remembers that they needed a servant to do chores so the others could focus on their tasks, and now he struggles to lift the unexpectedly heavy box, wondering about its contents. A muscular man greets Goraz warmly, calling him small and wiry, while another participant awkwardly claims to be eating normally, and someone announces that Mr. Karsesh has returned. Haruto knocks on the wooden door, reflecting on the friendliness of the squad members, then looks inside and announces that he has brought rare materials. Kento politely asks Mr. Karsesh to leave the item where it is, and Karsesh apologizes for overloading him with work when he has only just begun, and the narration introduces Karsesh as the leader of the Dragon's Breath squad. Kiyoshi asks if everything is going well, and Haruto confirms that everything is fine so far, thanks him and carries away the heavy box, with Kiyoshi offering to help at any time. Haruto greets Kaos politely, but Kaos responds with a disgruntled click and a frown as Haruto bows and carries the bulky load. He is warned not to get too familiar by being called a lowly servant, then surprised to be addressed as Luluka, and the narrative clarifies that almost everyone here is friendly, except one. Kaos, Karsesh's younger brother and second-in-command, recalls how he objected to hiring a youth who could not fight when a servant position was being discussed. He admits that the job suits him, but would like to do it without unnecessary obstacles, then decides to have a snack since there are no more tasks today. In Dragon's Breath, one guy muses about the need to eat out often, while another brings bumo on skewers, apologizing for the wait, and a third prefers to grab a snack at a nearby stand. Haruto examines the dish, noting that it looks normal, but tastes only of a sharp spiciness, reminding him of his earlier suspicions that the problem in the barracks was the seasoning used for the large group. Haruto excitedly shows off a bottle of soy sauce, explaining that he purchased it through a shopping app. Kento pours soy sauce over the dish, savoring the familiar flavor made even richer in this world, then tastes it again and is surprised to hear someone ask if it really is him. One of the men happily raises his mug, inquiring about the new team lineup, while the other apologizes for leaving the barracks, assuring them that they have found a new member. The blonde man is happy that Kento is now on a good team, mentioning the respect that Karsesh commands in the guild, and receives confirmation from Kento. Haruto asks what kind of liquid is on the dish, and his companion offers to try his signature sauce, pushing the plate closer. Kiyoshi is amazed by the extraordinary taste and exclaims how delicious it is, and Haruto proudly notes that the recipe is a family secret. The girl with wavy hair doubts whether these skewers are really that good, then asks for one, and the chef confidently replies that the order is on its way. Farron asks where he can get pho so he can try new dishes, and Kiyoshi, horrified, declares that it is not food at all. He glances at the list of ingredients, unsure if the meat listed is actually fit to eat, and next to it is a reference to the varieties of birds, including Naruto and Kenkatori. Kento admits that he lived alone on Earth and had long dreamed of becoming a chef, after which Haruto asks if he wants to try cooking now, and Kiyoshi explains that he only expected to be full from street food, while Farron says that his capable wife does the cooking. After praising the dish enthusiastically, Haruto asks about the ingredients, but an embarrassed Kiyoshi admits that he cannot reveal the recipe, and Haruto can't help but wonder about the possibility of obtaining soybeans. The narrative notes the simplicity of the servant's duties, then shows Kiyoshi preparing to accompany the team to the entrance of the dungeon, receiving weapons and tools from his grateful comrades. Lilia enthusiastically asks if everyone has taken the smoke bombs, and Haruto calls out to Cows, who turns around sharply in surprise. Haruto continues running errands and distributing supplies with an irritated expression, remembering that he is also tending to the wounded members of the squad who have been temporarily incapacitated, and notices that Mr. Vern's robe is a little frayed at the hem. He explains that he repairs damaged equipment and clothing using a sewing kit purchased through an in-app store, noting that items from Earth work better here than expected despite their cheapness. Farron, holding the cloak in his hands, is surprised by its perfect appearance, and Haruto is mentally glad that he managed it, although he had never been known for his sewing skills before. Kento reassures his interlocutor that the careful trimming of the worn cuffs was not a mistake, and receives a quiet, grateful acknowledgement. Haruto happily checks the App Store on his tablet, checking out the effectiveness of new cleaning products, and suddenly reacts to a notification that appears. Haruto happily announces that he has finished cleaning, and Kiyoshi and the other two express surprise and admiration at his speed and thoroughness. Kento confirms that his part of the job is complete, and the girl thanks him for keeping the rooms clean and cozy since his arrival, while the other two watch the scene. Haruto suddenly finds himself in a state of confusion and anxiety as he stands in an unfamiliar place, remembering his family, friends, colleagues, and boss, acutely feeling that no one knows him here, and comparing his situation to the plot of an isekai story. He stands next to three smiling comrades, thinking about those who still need him, then clenches his fist and realizes he must do more and work harder. Half a year after joining Dragon's Breath, Kento happily shows off his achievement of rank A to Lin, flashing a victory sign while she inquires about the results. The team celebrates their promotion to A rank, and Haruto reflects on how each of them worked towards this goal. He explains that servants receive 5% of the party's completed tasks, with the frequency of activity increasing the salary, while rank does not affect the promotion, and he himself rose to C rank after a series of completed tasks. Haruto is surprised by the size of the payment and asks if the amount is correct, and the guild representative confirms that the percentage is unchanged and explains that Dragon's Breath has been very active lately, providing him with a steady increase in salary. He modestly claims that he is just doing his usual job and helping the team, but he is quietly pleased by what he hears, receiving grudging approval in return. One of the men reveals that their mission today involves raiding a high-level dungeon, after which Kiyoshi asks if Kento will be safe at the entrance, and Haruto reluctantly agrees to stay. Farron mockingly chides Kento for his inability to carry their things, while Kiyoshi politely asks him to stay outside, and Kento agrees, feeling annoyed. Farron grabs Haruto abruptly, indignant at the fact that he was against his participation, because he doesn't know how to do anything, but still gets a share of the earnings, while Lilia, Kiyoshi and Mira discuss how much longer they can carry this ballast and how important it is to be ready for battle. Kento receives reassuring words from a man who assures him that he is not a burden, then another asks if he is being too lenient towards his younger brother, and a third apologizes, explaining that Kao's is not that bad. Haruto ponders his position as a non-combatant who can't be left alone at the raid site, feeling like a nuisance, until someone nearby suddenly cries out in surprise. A player named Yamazaki is reprimanded by a teammate for a mistake, apologizes, and takes a breath, while the narrative notes how unfavorable the circumstances are for outsiders. Kiyoshi recalls how hard work always brought recognition. He thinks back to the time when he got a job at a good company and earned several qualifications through intense study, striving not to become a useless burden. He admits that no matter how convenient the earthly tools from the apps are, they will not help him confront the demons, and understands that in this world he will have to start from scratch. He reflects on how he lacks heroic strength and has not trained in swordsmanship like the others, then admits that he feels like a burden, only capable of performing household duties. He thinks hard about how Kaos and the others risk their lives on missions every day, while he stays safe and gets his 5% commission, feeling like a parasite. Haruto reflects on how he's always hated taxes above 5%, and now understands Kaos' irritation, recalling the other team members' recent complaints and sensing a dead end approaching. Before the situation can deteriorate further, one of the team members asks Mr. Karsesh for a minute, which he allows, expressing his willingness to talk. Kiyoshi apologizes for the suddenness, and Haruto assures him that he never considered him a burden and that he shouldn't think of himself as less valuable than everyone else. Haruto expresses his gratitude for the opportunity to be part of Dragon's Breath, then firmly decides to leave despite the offer to stay until he finds a new place. Kiyoshi thanks Haruto for his hospitality and admits that it will be difficult for him to look Luluka and the others in the eye, and Haruto responds with relief at finally being able to speak out. Haruto realizes he's now homeless and worries about being a burden if he returns to the barracks, while someone nearby offers him a spare hotel room to stay the night. He winces at the price of 4,000 yen per night, noting that it is more expensive than a regular hotel, then politely thanks the staff for the documents while two people standing nearby exchange surprised glances. The girl wonders where she might have seen this guy before, and the young man worriedly calculates how quickly his savings could run out, knowing that there are many days ahead without guild quests. Farron, overcome with fatigue, notes that a whole month has already passed and reflects on the advantages of a stable income compared to freelancing, then decides to find a new place to live tomorrow. The realtor explains that although there are available rooms, repairs after the recent storm will take time, and asks to come back in a month, which leaves the young man with no options. Haruto calculates his monthly expenses, sighing heavily over the high rent and cost of food, then anxiously ponders his next steps until a sudden sound makes him yelp and roll to the side. The girl happily recognizes Kento, remembering how he once cleaned their kitchen, and he sheepishly asks if Miss Ferris, the owner of that very room, has returned. Haruto admits that he left on his own because his percentage of the reward was causing conflict within the team and he didn't want to become a problem for those who cared about him. Lilia angrily states that there was no need for him to worry, as staying there had become too difficult, and slams the table sharply. Haruto accepts her words calmly, repeating that if she says so, then so be it. Kiyoshi explains to Astria the difference between combat and support roles, emphasizing that the party's success is impossible without everyone fulfilling their duties honestly, and acknowledges that her support played a vital role. Lilia suggests that he has become a freelancer, recalling his behavior at the inn, and Kiyoshi admits that he hasn't decided what to do next yet, answering Haruto's question. Kento is surprised when he is suddenly asked if he wants to join the Dawn Squad, and at the same moment the woman confidently declares herself their leader. Haruto shouts out that he is home, trying to stop Farron from running away, and begs him to wait before he disappears through the door. Ferris returns with something she claims is better than the usual dinner, surprising the others. Haruto, confused, asks where the food is, and Lilia and Kiyoshi react with a mixture of alarm and curiosity to such a sudden announcement. Astria happily introduces Kento, stating that she just adopted him, and the boy next to her lets out a shocked exclamation. Farron angrily denies the kidnapping accusation, while Kiyoshi and Haruto insist that Kento was dragged in by force. Farron then snaps his fingers and angrily calls them annoying degenerates. Bugler cheerfully introduces himself and offers to provide the team with any necessary tools, but one of those present firmly declares that he prefers to make everything himself. Kelvin politely says his name and offers his legendary swordsman skills as a guard, and the interlocutor, slightly nervously, nevertheless accepts the offer. Kento timidly introduces himself and promises to do his best to make life easier for the others, while the other group member reacts awkwardly and hesitates to answer. Farron puts a friendly arm around Haruto's shoulders and asks him to be less formal, while Kiyoshi invites everyone to meet the others, and Haruto turns around warily, hearing someone shout at crew. Kiyoshi remembers that same child, after which Haruto introduces Kento as the new member, who politely greets everyone, although someone in the crowd remarks that it should have been said by the other side. Kruger introduces himself to Kento by showing him a notebook and explaining that she cannot speak, but is quite talkative when she writes. Those around her comment that the two of them should become friends, as they are almost the same age. The girl eagerly clings to a stunned Kento, calling him cute, while another nearby observer asks who she is and remarks on the very fact of his entry. Gracie introduces herself energetically, causing Kento to blush and offer an embarrassed greeting, while the girl next to her reacts with surprise and keen interest. The golden-haired girl admits to suddenly feeling hungry while looking at one of the boys, causing the fair-haired man to look confused. The dark-haired man then remarks that Kento's entry is good news, but it won't fill them up, and the bespectacled girl reminds Ferris to buy groceries. The girl happily declares that she will throw Kento an unforgettable entrance party, while one of the boys apologizes for forgetting the food and complains that he is deathly hungry. One participant warns another not to overexert herself, recalling how they barely escaped last time, while the other participant nervously squeezes her hand, feeling an internal tension. Lilia anxiously admits that Ferris is preparing dark matter, causing everyone to panic while Haruto doubts her words. Kiyoshi then suggests preparing something simple, which gives Ferris pause. Haruto notices that the kitchen is much cleaner and realizes that this is his second time there, He then wonders if the refrigerator belongs to the owners of the house and notes that they do a good job of maintaining it. He carefully examines the ingredients: meat, eggs, and a rice substitute, thinking that a vegetable called date hay tastes like a leek and might be suitable for the dish. Haruto looks at the seasonings, salt, sugar, and hot peppers, and finds that they have some of what it takes to cook. The character carefully prepares fried rice, boiling the grain in a cauldron, chopping the ingredients into small pieces, breaking eggs for the number of diners, frying the mixture in a pan, and then stirring in the rice, creating a harmonious dish. Haruto tosses the food confidently on the fire, the process feeling as natural as riding a bicycle, then looks around for plates. He notices everyone peering out from behind the door, amazed at their reaction, and they explain that the aroma has become unbearably appetizing and beg him to bring the dish out as soon as he is finished. The man thanks everyone for their patience as he serves the food, while Lilia hums something joyful, and Haruto notes with a smile that the group is behaving like excited children. The group stares at the dish in fascination, barely holding back their drool. Then the girl with long hair is the first to try and enjoy the taste, and the rest express their gratitude and prepare to eat together. Farron delightedly notes the amazing taste. Kiyoshi whispers in amazement that it is like a feast on the tongue. Mira admits that she did not expect such an impressive dish, and Lilia quickly writes that it is insanely delicious. Haruto tries to temper their enthusiasm, reminding them that it is just simple fried rice, not high art, and asks them not to exaggerate. The silver-haired girl declares that taking Kento only as a servant is a waste of talent, and with shining eyes, declares him her chosen one. Another determined participant proclaims him the culinary champion and cauldron bearer, and the little chibi figures of the others cheerfully agree. Farron apologizes for the initiative and asks if he can cook for them, which makes the elf genuinely happy and willingly agrees, although he hints at something more important. Kento is warmly welcomed into the Dawn Squad, surrounded by friendly smiles, and he responds with sincere gratitude, clearly touched by their support and the new stage in his life. Haruto, relaxing in the communal bath, reflects on his modest culinary skills as a former bachelor office worker, noting that many of the recipes on the tablet require unavailable ingredients, and calmly accepts the offer of help. He flinches in surprise, noticing how the girl peers into the bathhouse, repeatedly uttering the same surprised interjection, and he silently watches as the door gradually closes. The girl peers through the sliding partition again, repeating her surprised remark. Someone nearby laughs quietly, and the man inside watches the door close tensely. Haruto sheepishly realizes that she has seen everything, and the scene changes to a distant building, from which screams and questions are heard about whether monsters have appeared from the dungeon. He admits that he would like to try cooking new dishes, but is not strong enough to hunt underground creatures himself, and is interested in possible help, while Lilia doubts whether it is possible to eat the meat of underground monsters at all. Astria is deep in thought, then Farron complains that she doesn't want to go into the dungeon, but Haruto persistently offers to help Kento, and the girl finally agrees. Farron sarcastically agrees, and Haruto remarks that she commands without hesitation when necessary. Then Astria loudly insists that they are a Digivan people, not an adventurocracy, demanding obedience to the leader. Farron happily admits that she has never tried underground meat and now longs to know its taste, and Haruto thanks her, and she replies that it is not worth the thanks. Astria tastes the prepared dish, admiring its warmth and rich flavor, while reflecting on the ingredients used to create it. Mira joyfully announces her return, causing Haruto to flinch in surprise, while Kiyoshi hands over some ginger and explains that there are similar products to those found on Earth in this world, and Lilia sighs in relief. Astria angrily states her intention to stop everything from happening, then Haruto explains that they had to intervene to save the others, while Lilia notes that the party was surrounded and attacked by higher-level monsters. Kiyoshi tries to defuse the situation, urging everyone to calm down and act calmly, while someone complains about the abundance of monsters and constant difficulties, shifting the blame to high-level dungeons. He is surprised by the volume of meat obtained, and the young man explains that, thanks to the help of their companions, they now have a large supply of horned boar pork and hostile bird meat. Kento is amazed by the abundance of plants and mushrooms, wondering what to do with the excess, while the two confirm the delivery and remark on how much the storage bag helped him out in being able to carry everything. Lilia places the creature in a special box under Haruto's supervision and explains that freezing it with a spell keeps the meat fresh for a month, which he finds extremely convenient. Farron hesitates, considering butchering a large bird, until another participant offers assistance, after which the bird is shown looking determined, ready for further processing. Haruto decides to make chicken nanba, confident that he'll get it right this time, and follows the recipe meticulously, starting with the earth seasoning purchased through the app. Bite-sized pieces of poultry are fried in a frying pan in hot oil, while a tray of prepared raw pieces lies nearby. Haruto wonders if earth cuisine might taste even better in this world, noting the effectiveness of the earth goods he has acquired, and begins preparing the tartar sauce while the dish continues to fry. He struggles with deep frying, getting burned by oil splashes and admitting his lack of experience, then moves on to making a sweet and sour dip. Lilia reacts delightedly to the aroma, while Haruto announces the dish is ready, and Mira and Farron look at the appetizing plate in surprise, doubting that they really have monster meat in front of them. Haruto happily offers everyone generous portions, but at the last moment someone's hands abruptly throw the plates aside, interrupting his gesture. The companions finish 3 more bowls of rice, one of them enthusiastically asks for more, another smiles, noting the success of the dish and the unexpectedly pleasant taste of the opposing bird. Lilia thanks Haruto for the excellent treat, while Kiyoshi asks if the dungeon expedition lived up to expectations, and the girl excitedly confirms, promising to bring more delicacies. Lilia notices Kento's burnt hand, expresses concern, and immediately takes his hand, insisting on personally treating the burn. She shows Haruto her room and explains that she and Farron make healing ointments, then offers to apply the remedy to his hand while he carefully clarifies their specialty. In the illustration, the palm instantly heals, causing the young man to express genuine admiration for the girl's famous potions, and she confidently demands that he report any future injuries to her. Haruto sits on his bed, browsing through the available apps, and discovers the possibility of leveling up. After some thought, he confirms the upgrade. He realizes that the servants' wages barely cover their living expenses, and that the Dawn Party receives fewer missions than the Dragon's Breath, relying primarily on sales of Gracie and Farron ointments. He then discovers that upgrading to the second level of information costs 200,000 points, equivalent to 2 million run, and that applications can only be upgraded with money, which causes him growing irritation. Lilia approaches Kento, inquiring about his condition after leaving Dragon's Breath. While Kyo expresses gratitude and mentions working for another party, Kento accepts the task of searching for missing cats. Haruto explains that C-rank members only have access to simple tasks like dusting books or delivering baked goods, so the plan is to gradually accumulate funds through small tasks. Kyo asks Kento in surprise about his presence in this place, while Kento looks confused, and Haruto looks over the list and notes that there is one item left to buy. 2 men notice a hurrying figure and assume it is on a guild mission. One of them then admits that he cannot ignore it, as it is constantly getting into trouble. Haruto finishes weeding the plants and reflects on his 2 weeks as a servant for the Dawn Party, feeling calm as he sits on the grass and becomes lost in thought. Kiyoshi contemplates staying at Dawn forever, remarking on the delicious food and the crew's friendliness. Then someone calls out to Kento, who, after completing his errand, decides to take a little rest. A girl with long dark hair approaches Mr. Ragler, asking for a minute, and he turns around in surprise, asking what exactly she needs. Ragler cheerfully invites Ken to dinner, while Ken is surprised by his unusual behavior, but still quietly agrees, and Ragler asks to join him later in the living room. Mira thanks Kent for joining them and invites him to take a seat, while Kyo silently ponders Ferris and Ragler's strange behavior and Kent hesitantly accepts the invitation. Haruto recalls a painful episode, followed by a flashback where he winces as Farron grabs him by the collar in irritation, reminding him of the tense conflict. Farron excitedly assumes that he is about to be fired, while Lilia appreciates his work and hopes that he will accept her upcoming offer. Haruto looks puzzled at the sudden offer to take the B-rank exam, not immediately understanding the meaning of what was said. The woman confirms the invitation to the exam, and then the man explains that they want to see him as an official member of the Dawn Party. Astria declares with firm conviction that he deserves a better fate than the role of an ordinary servant, to which Haruto reacts with shock. The girl lists the advantages of the house's excellent food, a soft bed in order, which appeared thanks to his work, while the young man insists that they will never let him go. Kento admits that he took on additional guild missions in his free time, and she reacts violently, stating that she is not against it, but she is having a hard time tolerating the current situation. Kiyoshi warns Haruto that juggling household chores and guild assignments alone will undermine his health, offering to join the party and refuse unnecessary tasks, but Haruto hesitates, mentioning the B-rank exam. The girl confidently claims that he just needs to defeat one monster, while the boy anxiously admits that he does not have fighting skills on their level. Farron admits to his lack of experience and technique. Astria regrets not telling him sooner, and Kiyoshi supports him, promising that everyone will help him if he's willing to try. He quietly notes that he agreed to the offer, recalling the desire to live up to the expectations of his comrades, but still does not believe that he actually took this step. Haruto explains that he chose the B-rank exam due to his inability to handle heavy weapons, while Kiyoshi and Farron note his dagger and suggest he start with the easiest option. Haruto struggles to attack the rabbit-like creature, overwhelmed by its cuteness while being watched by two men. He admits he can't even point a dagger at the adorable creature until it suddenly growls menacingly. Haruto lunges forward, determined to attack and reminding himself not to be fooled by the beast's appearance, while Kiyoshi stands behind, ready to support the blow. Rager warns that even small monsters are dangerous and require finishing off to avoid attracting others, while a worried boy calls out to him, feeling uneasy. Haruto listens attentively to the explanation about the rabbit demon's weak point, the spine, and the need to finish the fight with one precise blow, after which he tensely confirms his readiness to follow the advice. Farron watches the two rabbits peacefully munching on the grass and realizes the need to act, while Kiyoshi insistently asks him to keep his eyes open and hold his weapon steady. Farron grips the hilt of his sword with both hands. Haruto, sweating profusely and clenching his fist, is trying not to flinch if he truly intends to pass the B-rank exam when a huge, alarmed beast-like creature suddenly jumps up in front of him. Haruto, breathing heavily, holds the bloody sword and is surprised to notice the bright pink color of the blood, realizing that he has managed to achieve an important result. He reflects on the experience, admitting that although he had no choice, the very fact of striking a living being remains a shock to him. Kiyoshi praises Haruto for successfully completing the rookie task and gently pats his head, while Haruto reacts with a surprised, slightly embarrassed movement. Kento is relieved after the ordeal, but the blonde mentor warns him against becoming complacent, explaining that promotion requires defeating many monsters until he develops consistent combat skills. Farron, maintaining a serious expression, orders about 50 more targets to be defeated, leaving Haruto stunned and confused. Haruto feels tired after the rigorous Spartan-style training and notes that he has no time to indulge in doubts, while Kiyoshi and Farron notice that he is already beginning to get used to combat. Farron asks if today's trophies are edible, showing excitement, while Kiyoshi, holding the bag, reminds them of the materials they have collected and adds further details. On the table are two prepared dishes, myconid fried in oil and rabbit demon meat stewed in curry. Farron and Kiyoshi react with surprise, while Haruto happily answers the call for more and promises to bring more immediately. Kiyoshi muses that using his own ingredients will make the menu easier to plan, while Haruto wholeheartedly praises Kento's cooking, and Lilia confirms that the dish turned out wonderful. Haruto thanks Kiyoshi for the training, who expresses a desire to continue training the following day. Haruto then confidently offers to take on the next stage, eliciting a satisfied reaction from his mentor. A stern voice demands that the number of defeated monsters be doubled for tomorrow and that the pace be maintained, while a hesitant response confirms an attempt to carry out the order. Haruto is depicted fighting monsters, wielding a sword and contemplating following Raglar's strict regimen. He gradually begins to perceive the creatures as walking ingredients, noting the meat of a bird and the growl of a nearby wolf-like beast. Haruto finishes his preparations with a quiet sound, after which Kiyoshi and Farron confirm their readiness. Then Haruto and Farron support each other, walking out with a confident attitude towards the spacious building. The two stand in front of a large window as the narration emphasizes that the time has come for the B-rank exam. Lilia reassures Haruto that he can handle it once he understands the principle, while Kiyoshi explains the difficulty of the test and the need to monitor for cheating attempts. Haruto at this point inquires about the power of the stone turtles. Haruto is amazed by the water crystal projecting the surroundings onto the guild screen, learning that it is activated by drawing a sword and serves as a kind of surveillance camera to prevent rule violations. Haruto doubts whether he will be able to complete the tasks, but Kiyoshi supports him, explaining that it is enough to complete everything within a week. After this, Haruto decides to begin immediately. Kiyoshi gives Haruto a gentle pat on the shoulder, reassuring him of his ability to handle it, and Haruto responds with a resounding yes, preparing for further challenges. Haruto leaps forward, enthusiastic and excited, while his exhausted companion notes that they have only defeated 10 of the 45 myconoids and that the journey is still long. Haruto is relieved to notice the advantage given to underage participants and studies the magical map of the winged leaf snake's habitat, delighted by the navigation function. Haruto notices a sleeping leaf snake on a branch and muses on its ability to glide, noting that such creatures move between trees without touching the ground. Haruto reaches for the stone with difficulty, then decides and throws it with all his might, while a dull growl is heard nearby. Haruto faces the snake as it lunges at him and explains to himself that its nerve center is located in the tail, which allows it to regenerate its head. He strikes the head and wings to stop the movement. Haruto takes a breath and remembers the anxiety before meeting the leaf-winged snake, considered a rather powerful monster, as a loud thud marks the cutting off of its tail. At sunset, Haruto sums up the day, remembering Mr. Raglar's praise and the slight feeling of embarrassment that came from the usual gesture of approval. Haruto carefully touches the spiky, hedgehog-like creatures, noting the lack of movement and suggesting ease of operation as the three slowly spin on the ground. Haruto reminds himself that the spiny lizard's meat tastes like bacon and looks forward to pairing it with eggs, while his companion admits to being tired. Haruto decides to subsist on sandwiches during the exam, realizing he has no time to cook, even though he had prepared more substantial meals for the Dawn members in advance. Haruto assesses the task of collecting 10 branches from swaying trees and questions the difficulty of the process, while an unseen interlocutor notes the difficulty of obtaining a large number of branches. Haruto, breathing heavily, chops at the giant swinging objects and falls back, irritated at the need to cut through these huge moving masses. Haruto, sweaty and irritated, reflects on the tree's weakness to fire, but laments the lack of magic and considers it absurd to fight armed only with a dagger. Haruto looks at his tablet with concern, wondering if he'll be able to find anything available through the shopping app under the current conditions. Haruto, holding the device, confidently declares that he has figured it out when a sharp bang is heard nearby, causing an unexpected reaction from someone standing out of frame. He displays a spray can and a lighter, creating a wide stream of flame, and then warns the others to hand him the branches or face serious consequences. Haruto is surprised that his plan worked, sheepishly asking for the branches and continuing to persistently strike the object with full concentration. Lilia greets Kento and inquires about his exam, to which he replies about returning to the dungeon after completing his work, then notices a scratch and holds out his hand for her to examine. Kiyoshi is stunned by what is happening as Haruto explains the use of healing magic, and a close-up captures the shocked expression of the onlooker. Haruto thanks Kento for always caring for the team, after which the elf girl gently hands him a small object, causing him to look surprised and hesitant. The woman tells him that the protective spell is passed down in her family, then lightly touches her forehead to his, leaving a caring kiss that he doesn't have time to prepare for. Haruto wishes him luck on the exam, involuntarily touching the place where he was kissed, and the narrative mentions subsequent events. He notices the stone turtle and remembers that the key to victory is a quick beheading, after which he energetically prepares to deliver the decisive blow. Attempts to strike are met with repeated misses. Haruto irritably admits that he is failing. He searches for a way to approach the large, hard-shelled creature, aware of the unexpected difficulty of the task and trying to move silently, without giving himself away. Haruto climbs onto the massive shell, confident that he has remained undetected, and calculates his acceleration and the precise moment of attack to compensate for the enemy's speed. He maintains his concentration with his eyes closed, then watches the turtle's head closely, noticing its alertness and waiting for the moment to appear, forcing himself to maintain composure. Haruto presses the object down with force, accompanying the action with intense effort and an internal command to continue pressing to the end. He runs his hand over his forehead with relief, grateful that there was only one opponent, then takes the turtle's head, the only part required. Haruto realizes that the test is complete when a voice announces that all participants have successfully passed the exam. He is delighted to see his card turn gray and receives congratulations on his promotion to B rank, along with an updated guild ID. Haruto happily accepts the explanation of the differences between the rank cards, listening to the explanation of the color system, comparable to a driver's license. He feels proud when two comrades sincerely congratulate him. One ruffles his hair, the other smiles approvingly, and he himself feels equal to the other members of Dawn. Astria welcomes Haruto as an official member of the team, noting his hard work, and he responds with a genuine smile, happy to meet again. The dish is declared ready, and Haruto, looking around in confusion, searches for the absent man, while Kyo greets him good-naturedly, and a girl's muffled laughter is heard quietly nearby. Farron calmly reassures Haruto, explaining that situations like this are not uncommon, though Haruto still notes the oddness of the moment, recalling that Kiyoshi is usually in the kitchen whenever there is cooking. Haruto assumes that someone might be sick, but they explain to him that he periodically locks himself in his room, blaming it on a sore throat and claiming that he is in poor health. Having finished cleaning, Haruto decides to take a break, arguing that with a stable life and no worries about housing, he can afford to rest and meet Kruger for lunch. Kruger, still confined to her room, worries about her own well-being and places an order through the app, choosing honey and ginger to make a sore throat remedy. Haruto finishes preparing the warm drink and, inhaling its aroma, notes with satisfaction its mildness, hoping that the remedy will bring relief, even if the illness does not resemble a common cold. Someone suggests using an app, and after activating it, a package labeled comfortable falls onto the magic circle with a loud thud. He suggests that the dry air may be the cause of the discomfort and treats the mask with the healing potion he received earlier from Farron, and then hears a knock and a warning about the entrance. Haruto notices cracked wooden beams and a broken window, then cautiously peers into the room, holding a cup and sensing something disturbing in the atmosphere. He is shocked to see Kruger wrapped in a blanket and covering her mouth with her hand, and quickly assumes illness, deciding to call a doctor and provide assistance immediately. Haruto abruptly asks someone to stop, causing a shocked reaction from the girl, who covers her mouth in fear. Farron reminds Mira to wear a mask instead of suppressing her cough with her hand, and then offers her a warm drink, which she feels noticeably relieved from. Haruto notices the unusually high and almost childish timbre of the voice, and Mira, wrapped in a blanket, admits that she feels almost renewed, slowly sipping from her mug. Lilia is surprised to notice that Kruger is able to speak, announcing her return, and Haruto reacts in shock and hurries towards the source of the sound, calling her by name. The girl grabs the elf, who is clutching a book in her hands, and in a panic asks about the reasons for her almost complete lack of clothing, clearly shocked by the unexpected appearance. Farron, upset by what happened, receives support from Astria, who inquires about the state of the damaged notebook, and Farron admits to being awkward and cuddles up to her. Haruto asks Kruger if she can speak, and Farron suddenly realizes that she can speak words thanks to the mask, attracting the attention of the others. The girl asks if he controls his magic, and he hesitantly replies that he probably does, noting his inner stability as he speaks while she watches closely. Haruto asks for a drink, and Astria, holding the box, says that she prepared it in advance, leaving Haruto confused about what is happening. Astria looks at the drink with mild surprise, and Farron explains that it is a simple warm remedy made from ginger, honey, and lemon, with a soft and pleasant taste. He explains that previously no magical methods had produced results, but after her drink the loss of control stopped, and Haruto asks what kind of magic she used. Haruto vehemently denies the accusations, while Lilia asks clarifying questions and Mira suggests lack of intent as the three sit around the table in a tense discussion. Haruto reflects that he doesn't understand what exactly has changed, but notes that for the first time in a long time, he was able to speak freely, while Lilia quietly watches him. He expresses relief that he was able to help, but suddenly feels a tightening sensation and notices Kruger's voice growing louder, realizing that he no longer wants his words muffled by the mask. Haruto wakes up in a state of confusion and tries to understand what happened, while Mira gently explains that he lost consciousness and apologizes to a tense, visibly agitated Kento. Kruger can barely contain his own magic, and the girl, looking worried, explains that people born with voice magic are capable of intoxicating or bewitching those around them, so their ability needs to be tested. A woman in glasses joyfully announces the beginning of the experiment, inviting everyone to prepare to test the extent to which Kruger is able to control the devil's voice. 3 participants with varying resistances to magic sit down together, while the central figure cheerfully expresses readiness and the person on the left remarks on Gracie's excessive formality. Haruto, slightly embarrassed, tries to support the others and promises to cast a healing spell on everyone if their condition worsens, while the others sit silently on the couch. Lilia struggles to speak while the others become dizzy and nauseous, then everyone rushes to Kento, who has already lost consciousness, realizing that even a normal voice is still dangerous. The girl in glasses is pondering what to say next, and the 3 young men on the sofa are uncertainly expressing their state. One thinks that everything is fine, another feels an unpleasant chill, the third is doubtful, but is leaning towards a negative assessment. Kiyoshi clears his throat and suggests checking one more aspect, causing Haruto, Farron, and another boy to blush deeply, their hearts racing. Farron admits to feeling goosebumps, another mentions a strange sensation, and Kiyoshi notes a fluttering in his chest. Kiyoshi and Haruto are sitting exhausted on the couch when Astria asks if they've regained consciousness. Kiyoshi admits he almost opened the door to a whole new world. Farron, laughing loudly, apologizes for the unfortunate joke, and Kiyoshi asks him to stop. Then Mira explains that the mixture softens the effect of the voice, preventing fainting, which earns Lilia's cautious approval. Haruto assures Kruger that he intends to speak frankly with her and find a solution, earning her a warm, grateful smile and a gesture of appreciation. Farron, meanwhile, quickly announces the start of dinner preparations while Kiyoshi attempts to revive Kelvin. A masked character with glasses takes a sip of his drink and inquires about the other's condition, eliciting surprised reactions from the three interlocutors: the blonde-haired man, the dark-haired man, and the young man with the bandage. Lilia, wearing a mask and goggles, expresses genuine joy and gratitude, while Haruto and two others claim to feel fine and have not noticed any side effects or chills. Astria explains that the key to controlling Kento's voice is a combination of the drink and the mask, allowing him to speak in a low whisper, while three observers crouch nearby and watch for reactions. Kento reassures Kruger, claiming that all that matters is that they can now communicate, while Lilia thanks him and the disguised character asks everyone to be patient. The golden-haired woman advises the bespectacled girl that magical items will temporarily compensate for the instability, but that controlling the increasing power will require serious training, otherwise the outbreaks will worsen. Haruto accepts the slow progress and agrees to have her support, while she calmly assures him that this does not cause her any inconvenience at all. Remembering the help he received from the Dawn members, he decides to repay in kind and enthusiastically announces the completion of the preparation, offering to cut the food into small portions, confirming its taste in advance. Haruto amiably invites Kruger for tea, and she greets him with a sign in her hand and lets him in. Then she hands him the sweet she has prepared, causing a look of genuine delight in his eyes. Lilia cheerfully serves the tea, expressing satisfaction with his reaction, before insistently offering to try the drink herself. Haruto enthusiastically notices the opportune moment and quickly takes a sip. Haruto hands over a honey-marinated grapefruit to stabilize the magic, says goodbye, and Lilia gives a gesture of gratitude. Then he begins to study the next object with interest. He decides to level up his applications despite the required 200,000 points, and with inner determination confirms his willingness to continue improving. Kento notices the new pages of information about magic and stamina appearing, comparing them to a video game interface, and ponders the possibility of using the ability on more than just humans by snapping his fingers to test. Haruto, surprised by the updated categories in his profile, realizes that honey-pickled grapefruit with ginger has a connection to otherworldly magic that he had previously been unaware of. He suggests that combining the app's products with local ingredients enhances the effect, and understands that the app's power increases as he levels up, prompting him to strengthen his own abilities. Haruto considers how much the information upgrade has expanded his knowledge and whether it could have helped the previous team, and then decides to continue his research, hoping to discover new possibilities. When asked how he's feeling, Kento calmly answers in the affirmative, while simultaneously thinking that the camera mode remains unnoticed while the others discuss the city's inhabitants, food, and weapons. Farron notices a lot of restricted information on the profile, and a miniature figure nearby exclaims about the information being restricted, making Kento nervous. Haruto discovers that the receptionist girl's stats are completely hidden, suggesting the influence of protective magic, and then notices a notification for a free app to celebrate the first upgrade. He learns about the need to accumulate 560,000 points for the next level and decides to start saving on a large scale. Kento struggles against the strong wind as the girl warns him to be careful. He maintains his balance and explains that he is on a B-rank mission. Farron explains that the bonefish is usually defeated by severing its head and tail, but this time there are too many enemies, so Kruger has accompanied him to help. Kento is stunned as he watches the magical creatures freeze and collapse, while the girl with glasses abruptly stops him and another voice notes his progress in mastering the magical voice, expressing gratitude. Lily tries the candy she made for Kruger and explains that she coated it with a cough suppressant to make it safe to talk outside, while Kruger doubts it's edible. Haruto stands by the door while Lilia checks with the clerk about available assignments, who thanks them for the work they did outside the building. He notices the near-total lack of quests, and Lilia explains that it is now sleeping season when monsters in dungeons disappear, causing a temporary halt to hunting quests. Seeing that it started raining immediately after leaving the dungeon, he notes the fortunate coincidence, and she announces her intention to cook dinner, admitting that she is hungry after hard work.
Farron ponders the evening's menu and decides to use the leftover fish, thinking of making it the main course. Haruto selects fried tofu, holding his purchase with satisfaction and planning further purchases. He's happy to point out that he can save time by cooking simple dishes, exploring options like dungeon fish munir, potato salad, and baked buttered fried tofu. Back home, Haruto thinks about buying bread through an app and recalls different types of baked goods. He cheerfully acknowledges the happy coincidence while Kiyoshi explains that he bought some delicious bread and inquires about using it in the dish. The soft and chewy bread Wrangler brought was the perfect accompaniment to tonight's dinner. Then the girl hesitantly asks Kento if she can have a drink after the meal while he carries around the plates. Farron readily agrees to prepare the snacks, while Haruto watches from afar, shyly accepting her warm thanks. Entering the room, Haruto notes that the adult members of Dawn enjoy evening get-togethers and even have their own cellar, and then begins searching for a suitable alternative to white wine. He happily shows off the bonefish he's caught, then fries it until crispy, pleased with how delicious the chips turned out to be, made only from bones. Feeling thirsty, Haruto decides to grab a drink and eat later with Kruger, while Kiyoshi readily agrees to get another bottle while the others enjoy their meal. Farron clutches his head, perplexed by the pain, while Kiyoshi suggests that the night's drinking was the cause. Haruto inquires about his condition and recommends rest, but Farron claims he has already taken his medication. A girl happily announces a day of discounts, dismissing the idea of a vacation, while two others note her excessive energy and strong anticipation for today's shopping trip. The group decides to take a walk around the city without a set route and, discussing the possibility of joining the others, arranges to meet in the square, as Gracie intends to buy cosmetics. Kento is contemplating buying new clothes, after which the saleswoman greets them and offers to try on the items before buying, causing him to be surprised. Haruto recommends one of the outfits, and a girl in glasses and a mask admits it suits her. Another participant approves of the idea of trying on more options, and Haruto considers his own purchase while being offered a local fruit juice. Farron reminisces about his recent salary and muses about saving, while Haruto and Kiyoshi laugh at the fact that they've already spent too much right after the payday. Haruto asks if Gracie is finished, but Lilia replies that it will take time due to her desire to have a shopping race. At that moment, Haruto is suddenly pushed, and he reacts with surprise. He accidentally bumps into a passerby, apologizes while holding his cup, and then hears him recognized and called by name. Haruto and the short-haired girl observe the situation in silence as the blonde girl addresses a man named Cows. Haruto laughs and teases him for his clumsiness, asking the masked girl if she knows him. A girl with glasses accuses a man of cowardice for trying to hide behind a ladyboy, while another woman mockingly calls him a useless servant, claiming that he was only good for cleaning and washing. Haruto silently lowers his gaze, while Lilia calls someone a scoundrel, and the confident woman remarks with a gesture that the weak always bark the loudest. She lists that he takes care of their weapons and armor, does their laundry, cleans the house, and cooks a lot of delicious meals. Farron expresses her dislike for men who humiliate others and praises someone, while Haruto is perplexed, trying to understand what is happening to her. Kiyoshi is outraged by the accusation that he is the second in command of a gang that uses mid-level magic against weak monsters. Lilia reminisces about the Dragon's Breath game while Haruto and Kiyoshi argue. Kiyoshi demands an explanation, and Haruto tries to leave when he is called out. Haruto reveals that he passed the guild exam and became a B-rank adventurer, reflecting on how he was once a burden but has since changed. He declares his intention to work so hard that the other person is forced to acknowledge him, while the other person looks at him with surprised concentration. Kruger angrily rebukes the boy, who previously didn't even know how to hold a sword, while he laughs, and another girl calls Kruger rude. He assures that this will not happen, despite her urging him to forget what happened. Haruto reacts with confusion when Gracie confidently reaches out to him with her hand, and awkwardly addresses her. Lilia explains that the curse will cause him to painfully hit his little finger on things every day, and Haruto and Kiyoshi react with disbelief and confusion. Kiyoshi warns that Gracie's curses are permanent and unbreakable even by the most powerful mages, after which Astria encourages everyone to go home for lunch. Haruto offers to cook any dish of her choice for Gracie, and she accepts with delight. When Raglar and Calvin learn of what has happened, they are furious, and Kruger is suddenly drawn into the situation, after which the combat training standards are sharply increased. Farron encourages them to stand firm and not let others make fun of them, emphasizing the importance of training hard, while Kiyoshi reflects that they acted with the best of intentions.
They reminisce about their many battles with monsters, and about 6 months later, the scene shifts to two characters preparing for battle, one of whom is holding a sword and wearing a mask with goggles. Kento studies his stats and savings, noting that his level has surpassed 20 and his salary is increasing monthly, expecting to soon reach 5 million points, and discovers something unknown. The character notices the appearance of new apps, familiar and potion brewing, and tries to understand their meaning. Hiroto happily notes the addition of two new apps, familiar and potion brewing, noting that the former can only be used in dungeons with monsters. He decides to study potion making first and, glad that he hasn't sold his accumulated materials, plans to immediately brew something based on ingredients from the merchant district. The character explains that magic potions are significantly superior to conventional medications, the latter are cheaper, but take longer and do not guarantee results, while elixirs act quickly and without side effects. Hiroto muses that potion making is similar to his cooking. Lilia mentions that Zeria's main source of income comes from its excellent potions, and Farron recalls Gracie and Ferris's expertise as skilled ointment makers. He plans to create a healing agent using simple materials from Earth and then compare it with a version made with ingredients from another world. The character prepares 2 sets of ingredients and explains that the process is extremely simple, laying out everything needed on the table. Hiroto accidentally cuts 2 fingers with a box cutter purchased through the app, then applies 2 different creams to the wounds, noting that the differences are barely noticeable. Hiroto notes the immediate disappearance of the wound. The regular cream caused itching, but the new one did not, which allows him to conclude that the version with the addition of earthly ingredients is most effective. Hiroto decides that it is better to combine ingredients from both worlds in order to have the most effective remedy on hand in case of emergency, after which he firmly confirms his intention. He considers the proposal to increase the potion-making skill level, noting the 200,000 point requirement for level 2, and confidently decides to improve it. Hiroto notices that as he levels up, new categories of potions with enhanced effects have opened up, and he's eager to try brewing more varieties. He explains that the next one was a change-type potion compound that could change individual body parts, holding his hand over a detailed circle and emphasizing the importance of compounding. Several bottles sit on the table as Hiroto explains concoctions that alter hair length, skin tone, figure, eye color, and other parameters. He then tries one, noting that the effect lasts only a few minutes. The dark-haired girl reacts with surprise to the sudden change in her appearance, recognizing the excess of the effect, and then quickly examines herself and discovers that one detail is missing. Kiyoshi, blushing, carefully touches her chest, surprised by the strange sensation, then exhales heavily and smiles softly, not hiding his surprise. Lilia calls out to Kento, checking for his presence, while Kiyoshi addresses Mr. Regler, trying to speak in a squeaky voice after accidentally getting water down the wrong way, causing Kento to react with concern. Hiroto quickly denies the suspicions, but Kiyoshi quietly intervenes from behind the door, causing him to flinch. Hiroto, blushing and embarrassed, claims that everything is not as it seems, recalling the awkwardness of yesterday, where in a small insert, Kiyoshi laughs and hints at the growth of their relationship. Hiroto speculates that creating magic potions uses up mana, and that overuse of apps has caused them to shut down, so he plans to cautiously test the familiar app after returning to the dungeon today. He reads on his tablet that the stone turtle cannot evolve even after upgrading the app, then wonders about evolution and decides to keep searching, hoping to find a monster with growth potential. He carefully explores the beginner's dungeon, but despite a long search, he does not find a single monster available for evolution. Hiroto decides that for the first time he will simply choose one of the monsters he found, while someone nearby reacts with a questioning sound. He notices a leaf-winged serpent flying nearby and is surprised by its appearance outside the tall trees, then considers domestication as a reasonable option. Kento notices the sudden appearance of a wild leaf-winged serpent without any evolution warning and wonders why the battle was so easy. Hiroto chooses a name for the leaf-winged serpent, uncertain of its gender, then confidently completes the ritual and summons the familiar, naming it Wedgie. Kento reacts happily when the small snake rubs his cheek, remarking that it looks cuter than the one he encountered in the exam and promising to be friends with Wedgie. The girl asks why the monster was there, while the guy nervously explains that he saw it flying past and tried to catch it, after which she is surprised by his wording. Lily realizes that this is not an ordinary leaf-winged serpent, but a pre-evolutionary alpha form of a dungeon monster, and carefully touches the small creature with her finger. Kiyoshi creates a magic circle to tame a wounded monster,
and the narration explains how the Beast Master typically operates by using mana after a fight.
Haruto asks if this is the first time she's heard something like this, and she reacts with surprise. He then admits that he doesn't understand how she was able to catch the monster, showing confusion. Haruto smiles and says he saw something flying over a clearing, said Tame, and it all happened on its own, then apologizes for misrepresenting the app's existence. The girl with long hair and pointy ears looks stunned, while the small snake admits to the strangeness of its existence in response to the girl's remark.